Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alan Stevens, International Profiling and Communication Specialist. I've worked with some big clients such as the Australian Tax Office, the Australian Federal Police, Disney Films and Gillette. And I tell you that for this reason. What I do is real and my clients get ongoing results. If you take what I teach into your business, you'll be a lot more successful and make a lot more money. So with a little bit of time and about the same amount of effort, I can help you go to the next level in whichever area of your life or your business you choose. I'd love to hear from you and you're welcome to send me a message to find out more. And I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Okay, that was a little promo that I'd put together for my advertising. One of the things is everybody wants to know more about what I do and how I've got to where I am. You've just had lunch, and what we don't want to do is go into a lot of my history. So there's a quick promo of the type of clients that I work with and the sort of results that people get. Today, is everybody willing to do a bit of play? Okay. When I do profiling, I look at somebody and straight away know their personality. I know the upside side of your traits, I know the downside of your traits. But what it comes down to is that there is no right or wrong trait. Whatever traits you have are perfect. Knowing your personality traits, you therefore know the environment, the type of work and everything else that you should be doing. And you know how your buttons are going to get pushed with the downside of those traits as well. So when I look at somebody, and I will be looking at people, and if I look straight at you, I'm probably going to talk about you. If you don't want me to say anything, just look away, and I'll move to the next person. But as I said, it's always done with respect. I profile people for the sole purpose of being able to connect with them on a higher level. How do I build a relationship with them? In business, nobody's going to do any work with you, not going to buy anything from your services or anything else unless you build rapport and trust with them. Trust is the main thing. You're not selling your product, you're not selling your service, you're selling you. So what we're going to do today is look at some techniques, understand your own personality. You will be looking at each other, and it's good that most of you are sitting in threes because you'll be working in threes. One person will be the model, the other two people will be looking at that third person and working out what their level of trait they've got. And then we'll talk about how to use that information, how to communicate with somebody. In the second session, we will go into looking at the expressions, the body language that tell you what's really going on, the person's emotions, and even down to the point of whether they're telling you the truth or not. So we'll have a bit of fun with that as well. Oh, I've already touched my background, we'll move over that. Okay, at the moment you will put together a presentation when you go and see somebody. It'll be based on how does it sound to you. Does it sound okay? Does it make sense? Then how often do you go in and talk to somebody, you hit the mark, and on others you miss it completely? So what it really comes down to, the old way of doing business was to have no understanding of the other person, have your own stuff put together first, then walk through the door and you go into the meeting blind. You then, building rapport really was a lottery. Did you get it right or not? Sometimes you'll get it, sometimes you won't. If you hit the mark, you've got a good ongoing relationship with that person and you'll have repeat clients. Most cases it's going to be a weak presentation, so they're not going to buy. So getting a sale is going to be a gamble. But what I'm actually going to show you how to do, and by the way, I'm a social media stalker. I will actually go to your LinkedIn profile, your social media on Facebook or anywhere else, have a look for your face, profile you, understand your personality, and then put my presentation together so that I can actually connect with you immediately. If I've got an executive I've got to meet, I'd prefer to talk to them either face-to-face or using Zoom. So if we set up a meeting to have a chat anytime, even a 15-minute one, I want to get you on Zoom where I can see you. If I have to do it by phone, I'll have the photograph of the person I'm going to call up on the screen. Again, LinkedIn profiles, websites, etc. And the first thing I'll actually say to them is I'll talk about some of the traits. I'll see the traits they've got, and I'll talk about situations, some of the issues that they may have had in the past. And they go, how did you know that? Your face is telling me that. Then I'll say to them after that, okay, well, if you were able to talk to your staff that way, would you have better rapport? You know, when Clyde mentioned it before, 85% of people being disengaged, that's one of the reasons because most of their bosses don't know how to connect with them. I put a post up on LinkedIn just recently. It was a statement. I know other people have said it before, Richard Branson, but it was look after take care of your employees and they'll take care of your business. It's that simple. So I put up a comment which was, why is it that 87% of people are disengaged in their work? Now, some people thought that I was knocking what Richard was saying. I was just starting a conversation. The fact I put his face up there triggered everybody to respond. In 2 weeks, I had 46,500 likes. I had over 1,000 comments, and it's been shared 4,750 something times. So it's a contentious issue. So we know that there's a lot of problems within the marketplace, within work. So being able to, with that executive saying to him, if you were able to connect with your people that way, would that be something you like? Yes, it would. How about your salespeople? They could connect with your clients in the same way. Talk to them to their traits so that they're spending the appropriate amount of time in the getting the deal put together. Would that be good for them? In that brief moment, we've pretty much got the deal done because now they want to know more. And that's when we go into the proper meeting. So I will profile somebody, I will go in and meet them, already have that information. When I walk through, it's like meeting an old friend. I know those that need space, those that will come up close, those that want the big picture, those that are more analytical. So I put the presentation together that way and I'm talking to them. So what I've now got, quick rapport, instant rapport. I've also got a strong, memorable relationship with them. The time it takes me to get a sale is much more designed to their speed, and in a lot of cases it's faster than I used to do before, because I am a little bit analytical, and I need a lot of information before I can make a decision. The big picture people, they're already turned off. I've talked myself into the sale, keep on talking, and I'm now out of the sale. That was my problem. So being able to recognise that, it's going to be a winning presentation, and you're going to get timely sales. The skills that I use, the facial features, and this may sound silly, you might think, well, how do the facial features determine someone's personality? You look at somebody who's fit, who's been working out. If you're doing just do this with your own arm. Move your arm up and squeeze the hand and the muscles as you bring it up. You'll feel the muscles. You can feel the movement. You'll also feel the striations that you actually create. When somebody works out and does this regularly, they're going to build biceps. If they turn their hand around and do it the other way, they're going to build different movements in their muscles there, different ridges and crevices. As we've already heard from Clive and also from Jerome earlier on, when you're talking about the emotions and how it's shown on the body. So if you think in a particular way over and over again, concentrate deeply. Just do that. Pull your eyes together. You'll feel the muscles up here tighten. You'll get these little crevices, vertical crevices. You do that over and over, you're going to build deeper crevices. You're going to build muscles. You're going to do the same thing with smiling. The mouth will turn up more. All I'm doing is looking at the history of how you like to think and process. That's your personality. So your facial features will tell me how you like to think and process. And by the way, as far as the features go, it's personality, not character. Two people can look very similar to each other. They will process information, they'll take it in the same way, they'll respond emotionally the same way, but one could be a saint, one could be a sinner. Just quickly put your hand up if you've had somebody who's done the wrong thing by you in the past, and then you've seen somebody else who looks very similar to them. Have you had that situation? So what was your normal response? To react in the same way that that other person made you feel. Now you're doing that with the new person. So what we end up doing is creating self-fulfilling prophecies because they pick it up as well. You've all walked into a room and felt the energy, the people around you. Well, it's the same thing. They've picked you up. So we create situations. So being able to read people this way means that you have a much better relationship with the person. You're treating them with respect. So yes, I am making judgments, but based on what I'm seeing in their face, not my emotions of my past. So once I've worked out the facial features and worked out their personality, I now look at the language I'm going to use. So it's, I've already worked out in the emotions how they express themselves, their thinking styles. Some people are very structured. They have to learn A, get B, add that to A, then get C and add that to it and get it in a slow process. It's a sequential thinker. Objective people who bounce around the place. They can pull concepts together. So how I would talk to them would be different. But now if I've read them right, I've got the words I want to use and I start talking to them in the right way, the cues, body language and the expressions on the face. They will tell me the person's emotions, and if they correlate,
If I'm getting the accurate feedback, I know I've got rapport. If I've got rapport, I can get to the sale faster. I can also, if not, I'm out here. I'm missing buying signals. I'm delivering the wrong message because I don't understand their personality. And I've also got the poor presentation. I'm losing opportunities. So if I want to get away from those three outside areas to get to the sales in the middle, I've got to go through those three. And by the way, you all do it to a certain degree. The idea now is to be able to understand why you do it and how you do it. So that's the one we're going to work on in this half. Later on, we'll go to the cues in the second half. One of the things I want to do is also get everybody onto the same page so that, well, you're all looking at me. You've all got different ideas of who I am based on where you are in your life. So that's how we normally judge people. When I look at everybody, and by the way, I'm the centre of the universe, or my universe, and everybody else is either on that side or over that side. So I feel like I'm here in the middle. But to the rest of the world, I could be over here. So, and then other people, they'll see me over here. So what we're doing in the way I profile people, we're going to get all under the same platform first of all. First thing we're going to do in a moment is I'm going to put some slides up and I'm going to get your feelings on it. You'll get an impression from the room how each of you are different from each other. And then as we go through some of the examples, we'll all get onto the same page at the same point. So on that top one, they might be a little bit hard to see, but I won't get you to look at these ones at the moment. I'll just give you the research on it. The top one, they asked who was the less competent. It ended up being A over this end. Those faces are the same all the way through. That's the test level. And then we had the more competent, the less competent. Then we have on the second level, we're looking at the most dominant. Well, that one definitely looks more dominant than number B, or the one on the left. Then it was, which is the more less extrovert. That one looks far more outgoing than this one. It's all in the facial features. D, the less trustworthy. The guy over here, who would probably have been looking at more over on these ones, more competent or more dominant. So we all judge people very quickly. Okay. When you look at those three faces, which one looks the most confident to you? Give us some numbers. 3. Any 2s? Couple of people with 2? Yep. Anyone say 1? Who says 1? So Jerome, you're one of the very few. What you'll find is that most people look at the wider face being the more confident. And the way we actually profile it, that person will actually behave more confident as well, but we'll show that in a minute. Which one looks the most trustworthy? See how we're all in different positions? Okay, so what they're going to do now is start to look at some traits and get you all on the same page so that when you profile somebody else, you would all get the same result. Have another party over here, see, and everyone looks at them, you'll come up and say, yep, that's what they are, and you'll be there together. That way, when you know your own personality, you know how to change the way you like to be spoken to the way they want to be spoken to. Now, I do this everything with children, through to parents, etc. First of all, who does sales here? Okay, so to be able to connect with somebody more effectively, you're going to learn some skills on how to do that. Who has teams? Has employees? Okay, as we heard before, the disengaged, well, getting them on side, you're going to learn some things there as well. Who's married? Who's got a partner? Okay, you can use these skills to actually have a better relationship with your partner, talk to them in the way that they want to be spoken to. Who hasn't got a partner who would like one, or who would like a partner? Okay, I quickly look around to see if the hands went up this time, also went up in the previous one as well. Okay, who's got children? Would you like to understand what motivates them, where their gifts are, and be able to guide them better in their lives? So as I was saying to earlier on to Stephen, that as parents, we are not sculptors, we are not carpenters. When it comes to our children, we are gardeners. We don't mould them into something that they should be. We should be actually nurturing them so they grow into their own personality and become the best person they can possibly be.
So being able to read their traits helps us do that quite effectively. Okay, first three things. And have a quick look around the table at the people around you and just have a look and figure out what stands out on their faces. It's generally the width of the face, the height of the eyebrows, and the closeness of the eyes. Really close eyes sort of look penetrating. So just have a look at the people around you and get an idea. Okay. Now, one of the things I'll always say in that, if, especially the guys up the back, if you spend too long looking at each other, we'll get you back in the room again. Okay. And the whole thing is, let's have some fun with this, because I joke about my traits. Every trait, as I said, has got an upside and every trait's got a downside. And I've got some doozies when it comes to the downsides. People say, was I always good at reading people? 2 divorces, a lot of relationships, business partners who emptied the bank account. No, I wasn't very good at all. But that's why I learnt this, necessity. But once I learnt it, I then realised that I looked at some of the traits and went, ooh, downside of that one's not real good. But I thought if I would have been blind to it before and it controlled me. So I had no control over it. As soon as it came up, bang, I'd respond. Now I know my traits and I laugh about them. I take dominance over them. So once you understand your traits, you're in charge. You make a decision. We're going to let them control you from here on in, as they always have been, or are you going to take control of them from there? I prefer to be in control of them. Okay, which one looks the most friendly out of those two? Anyone say number 2? No one? No. Okay, so number 1, why do you think? Okay, do this. This is one of the problems. When you look at facial features, we look at all the face and different... if I change the colour of the lipstick, the smile or whatever, would change the impact as well. What we're trying to do here is look at each individual feature and look at it on its own. So I will profile somebody by understanding what stands out first on their face, what stands out second, does that moderate or enhance the first trait? What stands out third, how does that work in with it? I work with 68 traits, but if somebody passes me in the street, I've got their profile. As they're 20 feet, if they came through the door and I'm standing halfway between here and there, I know exactly how to talk to them before they get to me, how much space and everything else they need. That's how fast you can do this, because you're only looking for the major things that really stand out and quickly building that profile. But you can do this. If you put your hands like that, or like that, and look through your hands so you can only see their eyes and eyebrows. On the screen, not each other. You get a chance to have a look at each other in a moment. Again, which one? Did it change at all? So it's still number 1. That's in the height of the eyebrows. And by the way, it doesn't mean that the person who's number 2 is less friendly. It's that they appear less friendly. That person is more discerning. She would walk into a room, look around the room and work out who's safe to be around and who's not safe to be around. And therefore, when it comes to not being conned by the con artist, she's the one who's safest. If I go into a room and I know nobody in there and I try to figure out who's safe to go and talk to, I will go and have a conversation with the one with the high eyebrows, meet her the right way, connect with her, and then find out she knows who's safe to be around and who's not. The low-set eyebrows are more affable, they appear more friendly, they walk up to people and with a shorter distance. What I'll get you to do then now is to look around at each other and have a discussion as well. As I said, get into 3s so that 2 of you can look at one and then go, right, what am I seeing there, and discuss it with each other. Then have a look, make one of the others become a model and the other 2 look. So you do it 3 times so that you know where you stand on the traits. Yeah. And I should say, by the way, when you read it, as you're reading it, guys, one of the things I should have said was that everybody has different shaped eyebrows. Some people go up at an angle, some are rounded, some are flat. When you're looking straight at the person, look at the pupil and imagine a vertical line, and you're looking at the height of the iris, the coloured section. Would that fit into the gap beneath the eyebrow and above the eyelash? As you can see in here, see how we've got the height of it there? If you put it in there, is that higher? Is it smaller? Is it the same size or is it a larger gap? Rightio. Who, put your hands up if the colleagues around you have said that you are more discerning, you have the higher set eyebrows. Yep. Okay. Could I have a volunteer? Would you mind coming up? Okay. Now, just stand over here for a moment. I'm going to give you some practical examples so you can start to use this in your business straight away. Now, if I'm coming up to meet you, and I've come over and I'll stop, you come over and tell me, you stand where you would feel comfortable and shake my hand. So that's a comfortability. Now, one of the things that I find, if I do this, how do you feel?
Crowded.
Yeah, and that's what will happen. If you step in on someone who's got the highest set eyebrows, they will move back. And quite often when I do these presentations, I stand up, move in like this, and usually that person bounces straight away. And if I then take another step closer, they bounce again. And think about it. Thank you very much. If you walk up to somebody like that and you're not aware of it, and if you've got the low set eyebrows and you've got the more affable and you step in, they move away. And as you talk, you just think, oh, they're on a walk. So they're walking back like this. And you walk towards them. Are they listening to a thing you're saying? No, because they feel uncomfortable. So they're actually withdrawn. They need their space. So the first thing, and every client you go and see, or any person you go and see from today, just go up to, when you go up to them, just watch them and see if they move away. If you see a person who's got high set eyebrows standing close to somebody, you can be pretty well guaranteed they know that person. Because once they've worked out who's safe to be around, they're as friendly as anybody else. Would that be right? You need your little bit of space to make sure you're comfortable. Once you've worked it out, yeah, you're fine. So if you're meeting somebody like that for the first time, honour their space. Because if you don't, you're going to lose them. The affable person will actually walk up to you. I was going at one of the Westpac, they had a presentation night, and the keynote speaker came like 6'6", and he's got very low set eyebrows. So he walked up and he stood right there. And I'm reading facial features. There's only one feature I can see and it's not pretty, it's up his nostrils. So, and I stepped out like that and he didn't even think about it, he just stepped in. It was lucky because all the tables were set up and it was a bit of an obstacle course and the bar's over the back side. Now if I had said to him, look, why don't we go and get a drink, and I sort of turned, that would have broken the conversation. He would have thought, what's going on? So I just nodded to him and started turning sideways and slowly talking. And we walked around the tables. We got to the bar and the barman said, gentlemen, would you like a drink? So the barman interrupted the conversation, I didn't. Once I had the glass in my hand, I was able to get my space because he can't walk into the beer glass, could he? But I couldn't put my hand out like that before, but now I've got something there. But I actually steered him around the tables. He didn't even know we'd gone for the walk because he was so involved in the conversation. So you can have a lot of fun with this one. But it's one of all the traits, it's the one that if you're meeting somebody, first one you should be looking at. They come through the door, you can pick it, long before they get to you. And the best way to actually meet anybody is to stop slightly before they get there, put your hand out, they then set their own space up. After that, then, could you come back out again, please? So if I'm standing and we're standing there facing each other and I'm looking straight like this is uncomfortable, okay? But if I turn, is that as uncomfortable?
No.
Completely changed, all this escape route. You have a place to go. If I'm like this, there's no place to go. This is confrontational face to face. This together, looking at the problem over here, we're now partnered up. Completely different thing. If I'm talking and I've got a document to show you, I'd pass you the document, you're holding it, I don't come in and point like this. I point like that. I'm also putting a barrier in between so you feel more comfortable. Okay, thank you. Okay, this one, you'll see on when you look at the other person, there's either a fold of skin that we have up here, or there's no fold of skin, the eyelash goes straight underneath. What we have is what we call an exposed eyelid, or we have a concealed eyelid. Can you see what I'm saying there? If we look at those two, see how that one is pretty much underneath, but that one is, there's a line up there, and some people might not even have a line. It's just flat skin. But you can see that the eyelash is on the outside, whereas on that one, it's starting to go underneath. Have a look at each other and figure out whether you're a 1 or a 2. You'll find that, well, mine has. I used to be more on the open side. But we have traits that are passed down from our parents, so we call them the nature traits. You know, the width of our eyes, spacings and things like that, the width of our face. But we also have, guys, the traits that... before we go, just let me finish this off, guys. Okay, as we get older, you'll find that it actually starts to come down. But in my case, I've been analysing a lot. I've really focused in. And if I keep pulling down and focusing things, it will come down. So you will see a bit of a change with age. But in some people, you will see that it's, go back. It's more, it may be closed on this side, but then open on the outside. So on the inside, it's like that. On the outside, it's like this. Then you'll know that person is big picture, but then you would go into the analysing after that. But have a look at each other now, first of all, and then tell me who's exposed and who's concealed. Yeah, so we've got concealed, exposed. Yeah. Okay. So, everybody, who's got the exposed, like the one over here? Okay. Here's a scenario. I walk up to you and I start giving you a lot of information. How do you feel? Overwhelmed. If I came up to you, say I was a financial planner, and there's a lot of information I've got to give you, but I came up to you and said, look, what I'm going to do is give you the big picture. There's a lot of information, but I'm going to give you the big picture first of all, then you can ask me the questions you want to ask, and if you don't ask me the things I have to tell you, then I'll tell you, is that all right? How do you feel now? Feel a lot more comfortable with it, don't you? Because you need just the big picture and you'll make a decision on that. So you're faster at getting to a decision. I know that if I talk to you and tell you as much information as I need to know, I talk myself into and out of the deal. So I want to make sure that I talk to you at your level. Somebody who's analytical, and if you're big picture and you're just trying to give the big picture, they're going to go, hang on, and drag you back to that point. They want to know more about it because they need more information before they make a decision. The analytical people doesn't mean that they're not big picture to be able to bring a lot of concepts together. They just need more information. They need to analyse it before they make their final decision. I've got a friend of mine, he's a coach, he's involved in stadiums and a whole bunch of things. He's very much the analyst as well. And I was talking to another gentleman next to him and I said, well, Richie over here is analytical, whereas this guy said, you're big picture. And Richie said, no, I'm big picture. He said, if I need information, I get everybody else to get it for me. I said, so you make your decision after you've got all the information? He went, yeah. I said, that's analytical. You're still a big picture person because of all the things you're doing, but it's how you actually make your decisions. You analyse it first. So remember, if you're presenting to somebody who has the exposed eyelids, give it to them in the big picture format. If I'm doing a talk to somebody, if I was a big picture person and I'm talking to somebody analytical, I'm going to say, look, there's information, there's going to be a lot of questions you're going to have, but before we get bogged down in the questions, to make sure, because I'm big picture, I need to make sure I've got everything on the table first, and then we can go to each item and go in depth. And the person goes, okay, I start talking, I go to the big picture, and they then start to interrupt. I said, but I want to make sure I don't forget anything. Remember, as I said before, I'll cover the big picture first, and then we'll go into all the detail. So I preempt it with them. Pre-frame the conversation. So then if they've nodded yes, I've got a contract with them. And I can bring them back to that and remind them, I'm still putting everything on the table first, and then we'll go back and spend all the time that we need because they can't make the decision without it. So I've got to make sure I do it. So big picture person, exposed eyelids. The analyst is going to be number 2 there, where it's concealed. Now, in some people's case, the eyebrows are very affable, very close to the eyes. You've actually got to look in, you look at the depth. They can still be big picture. But in some people, even from here, sorry, what's your name? Phil? When I look at Phil, definitely an analyst. Yes, he'll be the big picture, understand everything, but he's going to analyse it before he makes a decision. If he doesn't get it himself, he'll get his team to get the information. Okay, confidence. When we looked at the faces before, the confidence is based on the width of the face. And where we measure this one is actually around the eyes. As we're growing up through our age, different ages and things, the jowls of the face, this area, the cheeks can get wider. They can get narrower. So that can change, but our confidence levels don't. It's based on the orbital, outside the skeletal structure here. So put your fingers up and just rub out on the outside of your eyes. You'll feel the skeleton section. That's the width of your face. The actual length of your face is from the base of the chin, the boss of the chin, up to that natural turn of the forehead. Now, if you run your finger up, you'll feel a little bit of a curve where it rounds up. Just go straight up through your pupil so you can feel it, and you'll feel it roughly there. Now, you can't go up to everybody and touch them, but when looking around the room, I can see from the light glare where that marker is on the forehead. And what I'm then looking at is what's the ratio of this compared to that. If I divide the length into the width, what percentage do I get? The proper measurement for this one, it works out to, if it's under 60%, it's a narrow face. If it's above 70%, it's a wide face. And the one in between is a middle level. Who is good with ratios? Not many hands go up. That's why I say, look at the face. Does it look narrow or does it look wide? If the face is narrow, then the end result is that this is somebody who builds their confidence. It's got nothing to do with the actual confidence. We all have all spoken to Stephen. He's a confident man. But would this be right, Stephen? When you've actually learnt something new, you go away, you test it, you practice it, you make sure you got it right before you get up and talk about it. Yeah. If you've got a narrow face, that's exactly what you'll do. Now, if I have a project, I need somebody to put a new concept together, and it's going to be the new plan, the way we're going to do things from now and into the future. I'm going to give it to the narrow-faced person to go and do it, to put it together. Because they're going to take their time, they're going to test it, they're going to make sure it's absolutely right. If I have a time frame and I have to get it done by a certain time, like very quickly, then I've either got to set it up with them so they understand, they can come and ask questions, they can come to me and we can work through it quickly, or I then have to give it to somebody else who's going to do it faster. So the wider-faced person is somebody who will actually hear a concept, understand it, and be ready to run with it. They seem to, and they appear to be more confident. We had a look before at that really narrow face, number one. Nobody put their hand up to say, or except Jerome said they look confident. Most people, it's on the width of the face. They will actually feel more confident, and they'll come across to everybody else as more confident. If you've got the narrow face, would that be the same for yourself, that you actually practice things, make sure you got it right before you get up and talk about it? So if you're selling to somebody who, say you got a wide face, you're selling to somebody with a narrow face, you realise that you don't rush them. They're not going to hear it like you for the first time and think they've got it. You give them time, you let them ask questions, you expect more questions. And you show that respect to them by saying, okay, what questions do you have? Because I know there's a lot of information here. And let them guide that period of time. The wide-faced person, if I'm talking to them, they will get it quickly. But I've got to find out whether they know it or not. So I'll ask them a few questions about how they would apply what we've just been talking about in that proposal. So I test whether they got it. I don't test them where they think they're being tested. I've got to do it very carefully. And they will come back, and if they've got it, they will tell me how they'll actually apply it. If not, then I would just say, well, what about if we did this as well? I would then give them more information. So the width of the face is going to really determine their response to how you deliver your information, how quickly they'll respond to it. Does that make sense? Now, the one in between is the mediator. You'll find that the narrow face and the wide face quite often don't get on with each other. Narrow face looks at the wide faced person and goes, "You cocky bugger. Can't wait for you to fall on your ass." The wide faced person looks at the narrow one and goes, "Oh, for God's sake, stop procrastinating, get a move on." The position in between is a mediator. It's a great position to be. On all the traits, I did a course up in Newcastle, and one of the guys came to me, it was a public course. He came up and he complained at the end of it. He said, I'm in the middle on everything. That's no good. And I said, well, what do you do for a job? I'm a counsellor. I said, do you think you're in the right job? You're able to mediate between, you can understand the two, you can connect the two together. You get him to look at things differently. And he's bloody brilliant as a counsellor. Even better now, he can read them faster. Okay. Which one looks the most tolerant? Yep. Okay, on the ladies then. Who says 2? Who says 1? Okay, again do the same thing with your hands. Block out the forehead, just get the eyes. How do they feel now? Still the same? Or different? That's in the width of the eyes, yeah. So we usually find that the wide open eyes is almost a startled look. But what it still comes to is really the width between the eyes. On the men, definitely looks like very focused and everything else. This one over here, more laid back. If you have somebody who's got wide set eyes, and think about, well, first of all, look around the table and see who's got wide set and who's got close set. The way to measure it is the width of the eye is from the inside corner and the outside corner. What's that length? And would that fit between the two eyes? If it's wider, you've got wide set eyes. If it's not narrow or it just would go in, then you've got the close set eyes. If anybody's got a question, if they're not quite sure, let me know. On the width, only the width of the eye. You take the width of the eye and go to put it in. Yours are definitely closer set. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'll explain the low tolerance in a moment. Yeah. Oh, and you as well. Oh. Just looking at the inside corner of your eyes. One is higher than the other. Yeah, yeah. I'll come back to that. Great trait, brilliant trait. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to explain what I'm talking about on that one in a moment. It's an extra one. Okay, who's got the wider set eyes? Okay. No. So I'll just have a quick look. Yeah. Okay. Scenario. You go shopping. You decide you're going down for one object. Yeah. How many objects did you come out with? Yeah. So wide set eyes, very laid back, but also squirrel. You know, shiny. It's the old story, sorry about that. It's this old story, the person goes into the shops and they actually map it out and they go through the door and it's through all the stores, back through a few of them, back out again. Yeah, it takes forever to go shopping. People with close set eyes, straight in, straight out, very focused on what they do. It's not that they're not tolerant, it's that they are focused on what they're doing. They're as tolerant as anybody else most of the time. But when you think about it, who's got the close set eyes? Okay, I come up to you, you're working for me, and I say to you, come here, I need your help. How do you feel? If you're busy working on something, you're stressed on it, you really got focused in on it, and I go, come here and give me a hand straight away. Do you feel like you want to come and help me? No. What it comes down to is that you're focused on, if I came up to you and said, look, I need your help right now, and I'm in a position where you have to come and do it, physically you've come over here to help me, where's your mind? Still back on the old problem. But if I came up to you and said, look, I can see what you're doing is very important, you're really focused in on it and everything else, so I acknowledged you, but I really need your help. How much time do you need to get that to a level where you can then leave it and come and give me a hand? Would 5, 10 minutes be okay? If you said 10 minutes, I'm coming back in 11 or 12. Because I know you'll know if I've come back in 9. Because if I've done that, I've negated everything I've said to you about acknowledging you. But now you come over and help me, and I go, rightio, thanks for coming over. We'll get stuck into this so you can go back to your program, what you were doing before. Are you going to be focused on helping me right now to get that out of the way so you can go back to your issue you were working on? But the wide set-eyed person, it's usually a case of, can you give me a hand? Yeah, sure. Because they like to get away from what they were doing. I love watching expressions. You'll enjoy the next section. And that's the thing, the confirmation when I'm talking to people is always in the expressions I'm seeing. So I know that you like to get away from issues that are going on. That correct? Yeah. So you're a real team player. It's a great trait for a boss to have because they will look at everybody else's issues and work with them. Person who's got close set eyes, they're very focused on what they're doing. It's like, shut the door. Don't let anybody else in until they've got the problem out of the way. But there's no right or wrong trait. It means that the close set eyes, forensic accountants and things like that really focusing in on stuff. There's an aspect for it. Okay, thinking styles. This one, you actually look at each other upside on. It's actually what we call the glabella, which is between the eyebrows, that little raised section that rolls around, there and the turn of the forehead. And we're looking at the angle. If we look at, see how the shape of the forehead is completely different in those three? Who's got children again? This is one to look at in your kids. This one determines whether they're going to have a good time at school or a bad time, depending on their teacher. The shape of the forehead has got nothing to do with intelligence, it's all to do with the way in which they take information in. The vertical forehead is somebody who is a sequential thinker. What it comes down to is that and by the way, yep, take photos, and that I'll probably end up giving the slides to Stephen to share with you anyway. So you've got them. So if you've taken notes about some of the shapes, you'll be able to get them, have the pictures as well later on. A child, think about the forehead. When they're first born, it's more bulbous, it's out here. As they get older, the bulbous goes out of it, either goes up vertical, or it also starts to lean back as well. By the time they're about 14 or 15, they will have gotten very close to which shape they're going to have. They'll either be like that, they'll be here. That one usually comes out the further back by the time they're in their early, towards 20. So actually in a newborn child, I can pick up about 10 traits from the ones that have been passed down from the parents. By the time they're 5 years old, it's now 24 traits. By the time they're 10 years old, there's 40. By the time they leave school, there's about 60 traits. So we're really starting to be able to look at a child, understand how to teach them, understand the sports and hobbies that will suit them, and then help them find the right careers to suit their personality. All of you in business who have staff, would have been great if everybody who came to you was really suited to the work that they're going to do. That's what we can do in education. Let them know long before there. It also saves them a hell of a lot of money when it comes to their HECS bills. They have a HECS bill for something they're going to do for the rest of their life. How many people have got multiple degrees and don't use them? Lots. So, if it goes dead vertical, you've got someone who's a sequential thinker. So have a look at each other first of all, and then I'll explain how that actually works. See if you can see the person who is more vertical. The angle back is around about 15 to 20 degrees as a middle, and then there's the extreme angle. So make sure that when they turn sideways, they're not looking like that or like that. They're looking straight out on the horizontal. Yeah, so looking at that height. Yeah, so wherever you are. Yeah. No, looking from there, if you're looking, there's a vertical up here. There's a good number of degrees back. Yeah, more towards the middle, the mid-range. Yeah. 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 So what you're actually doing here is not actually looking at the rise section there. You're trying to see from the glabella, which is further back, that angle up there. So the part we're looking at is that area in there. Yeah. More towards the mid. How are you guys going here at this table? Yeah, so if I may, you're looking from there up to where the turn of the forehead is, so that angle is just right there. So with that, yeah, going into the objective thinking. Yeah, that's what I usually find, is people get their cameras out and go, don't do this. You won't get it. Okay. Anybody here who's got the more vertical forehead? What have we got? Okay. Just looking straight ahead that way? Yep. Okay, scenario for you. If I start bouncing all over the place with this concept and that concept, Is that good for you, or do you prefer it where I explain one thing and then explain the next section and how that connects, and I build the picture? So build the picture. And this is what happens if your child is a sequential thinker and the teacher's objective where they bounce around, or the child also has traits where they're easily distracted, which is the wide set eyes, and if they also have their fidgets. Now, one of the things when it comes down, if you look at my vertical height, I'm not that tall. But as far as my arms and legs go, they're really long in comparison to my height. Most people who are my height, when I sit down on a chair, my head's down here and their head's there because I'm all legs and less upper body. Someone with long legs is designed to sit for long periods of time. Someone with short legs can't sit still. So if you have a child who's a sequential thinker, is easily distracted with the wide set eyes and has the shorter legs, who likes to move a lot, and the teacher's talking and they get distracted, and the teacher talks about this bit and then goes to the next bit, then goes to the next one. By the time that child's back in connected again, there's a chasm. There's a disconnection between this item and that item. So the end result is that child, because they can't sit still, starts to fidget. They're easily distracted. Where are all the distractions usually? Behind them, the other kids behind them, because quite often the teacher puts them down the front because they won't sit still. So now the kids are looking around. They miss out on that bit. The teacher moves forward, says to the children, "You got all that?" And all the kids are going like that. This kid's going, "Yeah, I got that." But the teacher doesn't pick up that they haven't got it. Teacher moves on. So now this child feels dumb, that they don't have the knowledge that the other kids, they feel, because the other kids have got it and they're moving on. And this child gets disruptive and everything else. So what do? We list them as ADHD, we medicate them. As soon as you do that, you slow down their progress. So what I've done is actually shown parents how to read their kids and then have them taken off or not off the medication completely, but reduced it, spoke to them differently, child picks up, and they're back in the mainstream again. That's how powerful this is when you're able to read somebody to that level. So with that, you can think about if you're talking to somebody, and it doesn't take much. All I have to do is look around, and I can get you to look without even asking you to. If I'm sitting there talking to you, and as we're chatting away, I sort of look over there, and I do that a couple of times. What are you going to do? Curiosity gets you, you have to look. As soon as you go sideways, gotcha. It's that fast. And I go, right, so, whoops, a sequential thinker. Yeah. And so that way, then I know how do I progress from there. I make sure that if I pull another concept in, I make sure that I go back and I connect it. And I don't rush you, so it'll take a little bit longer. Therefore, it's a delivery method. If you're an objective thinker that pulls ideas together, then that's fine because I can bounce around and you'll get it. You'll pull concepts that you've done in the past into a new idea. The trait of an objective thinker, a hobby for them, rally driving. You drive around a corner and there's the map's wrong, quick reaction. The sequential thinker stops to think. But their real gift is in gymnastics, parallel bars, because they learn the structure over and over, and it's always the same format. When you were at school and you studied, you may have panicked at the end of the year thinking, I've got to study harder and everything else, but I guarantee that by the time you got to the end of the year, you knew everything because you had to fully understand that bit before you could add the next bit. Fully understand that before you could add the next one. So if you were nervous at the end of the year, I'd be saying to you, you already know it because you've already been through it. The sequential thinkers, or the objective thinkers, are the ones who usually cram at the end of the year. They leave it to the last minute. But that's the way they do. They fly by the seat of the pants. And you'll find the more angle back, the more the way is. You'll find that some of you who are more in the middle will go, yeah, but when I'm stressed, I act more like the sequential. Just don't interrupt me. I've just got to get my head around this. Well, we do. I'm more towards the middle, but when I've got a lot on my plate, I become a sequential thinker under stress. It's always got to be in that order. The objective thinker's not going to go through that at all, especially the ones that are really way back. Does that make sense? Okay. Right. How fast is, how many people have I spoken to? There's a few I've spoken to and said, rightio, you might be analytical. It takes you a while to take the information in, but once you've got your head around it, you're very quick. Give me the best way to do it and get the hell out of the way and let me get it done. So somebody who's got what I call a physical motive. There's a few of them I can see around the room from here. I'm more towards the mental motive. I look at all the different possibilities. So I get caught up in thought, whereas some of you get we're more focused on the action. And where it comes down to, we're looking at again, the turn of the forehead to the chin, so we know the full length. And then we're looking at, from the base of the nose, your nose might point down, but it's where it's going to be against the face, the top of the philtrum. We're looking at that section there. How long is that in comparison to the overall face? What we're mainly looking for, and the way I measure this is really a real, just a little by visual. I'll look at somebody and go, rightio, I can see the bottom section there. I'll go like that, then mentally do that, and then that. You'll see that on mine it goes once, twice, almost 3 times. Other people it goes once, twice, and a half. That one's 40%. That's the beginning of your physical motive, and the 30% or a third is the person who's more towards the mental motive. Everybody else in between. Mental motive. Mental. That's why I always say to when people go, and I train people, they look at me and they say, oh, you're mental. I say, add motive, please. Because it's the way I like to function. It's all about, I'll look at a concept. When I was in the surf club, my job was I was a club captain. I'd go out before the patrols went out, and I'd look at what was going on, look at all the different possibilities of the day. Then I'd go back and give them the best way to do things. Because they just wanted to get in and have the action. Me, I get caught up in the thought, how can I look at this differently? What are all the different possibilities? And then decide which one's the best. So I take longer to make my decisions. So if you've got somebody who's analytical, and they build their confidence, and they've got the mental motive, they're going to take a long time to make a decision. To everybody else, somebody who's got the wider face, high level of confidence, the physical motive, and the exposed eyelids just give me the big picture, they make the decisions really quickly, want to get to it. They'll look at me at the other end and go, oh, for God's sake, stop procrastinating. I'm not procrastinating. My mind, the wheels are going at 100 miles an hour. Procrastination is doing nothing. With the mental motive and some of those other traits added together, the brain's fully active, but it's in mental thought, not physical action. So I would say that once you've made your decision up, it's like, just give me the best way to do it. I'm going to get into it, get it done. You're not going to waste your time with looking at all the different possible ways of doing it. So if I present to you, I've already worked out what's going to be the best for you. That's why I ask the questions, all about your business and how you actually think and like the process. And I go, okay, right, I know that you may need some, or you just want the big picture, so I'll give you the big picture. I'll also say, well, okay, there are different ways of doing it, but this is the best way to do it. This is what I recommend. You look at that and you say, that's fine, we're done. And we're into it very quickly. If it's somebody who's got the more mental motive, the shorter section, I'm going to go, well, these are all the different possibilities. You can see how this one works, you can see how that one works. And they then get it, oh yeah, I think I like this one the best. Great, let's do that. Does that make sense? So you can see how this is going to change the way you present, always going to be different with the people. So as you can see on the one on the right, very much that larger section built on action. The one on the left, more about the thoughts. And one of the last ones I wanted to cover was how to actually talk to the person. You generally find, Karen and I have known each other for quite some time, and when we talk, there's usually a lot of joking and everything else. Mark, who I just met this morning, straight away I went, oh, here's a guy I can have a conversation with. I don't have to be too politically correct about things, and I know that he will give back as much as I give him. It become a real joking situation. So I can connect with you very quickly. We can have a great time laughing, and it's a very informal conversation. Someone who's got the much shorter filter, what we call a philtrum, that little curved section, from above the lip to the base of the nose, is somebody who is more fussy about things. Yes, they've got a sense of humour, but you'll generally find that, well, sorry again, Phil. Back to Phil. Slightly shorter, so more fussy about things. The downside, don't take any offence to these, because can take things personally. But what it comes down to, you've got the wide face, which gives you the confidence and everything else. So that moderates that a little bit. But if I've got somebody with a narrow face who's got a very short philtrum, I'm going to be very careful about how I talk to them. The upside of that trait, by the way, they're very much, they'll look at a room, a blank room, and they can tell you what goes in where. If their house is a priority, it's going to be immaculate. Most of us who have got the longer filter, we're happy to sit around in, old tracky gear. It's all about being comfortable, whereas they're more about how they appear. So again, you can actually talk to them in their particular way. As you can see, the difference in those. And I tell everybody it's a rule of thumb, which is my sense of humour again, because I don't use the thumb, I actually use a finger. And what I do is I sort of imagine when I'm talking to somebody, would the finger fitting underneath their nose, would it still leave the lip exposed? If it does, then it's going to be somebody who is more like number 2, it was a bigger gap. Think of Jeremy Clarkson, if you've ever watched Top Gear. Yeah, he was typecast into that role. They just picked him really brilliantly, and they play to his roles. If you then I take the little finger because it's narrower, and I look at that being in there, if the lip doesn't touch it, then you've definitely got somebody who's very fussy about things. So I don't joke, I'm careful about how I joke with them. With Phil's case though, we had a bit of a conversation last night, and he's already shown that he's got that bit of a sense of humour, so we were able to go there. But I would also be careful not to go too far. Because if you had a narrow face and you built your confidence, that I could then know that I could put you off. But in your case, you've got the other traits that moderate it. Okay. So really what it comes down to, and I pinched this the other day, Karen just looked at me then, we were both at a presentation, the guy finished off with this one, and it's really the case, think about what Nick covered yesterday, Jerome yesterday afternoon, and then Clive this morning. There's a lot of information in all this, and even what I've covered today. It's no good to you until you put it into action. You can be a great thinker and go, I'm going to think about it, but the thinker should have been, the full description of this was somebody who was on the verge of action. Take action. There's so much information that we've brought together. So I'd like to finish off on that one. So thank you very much.